Hi, welcome back to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie. I'm your guide into the world of Chinese language and culture. And every day I'm going to share with you one new word after reviewing the previous day's word or expression more accurately. So yesterday we talked about you pick up gold, but you don't hide it. So basically finders, but not keepers. And today we carry over the word gold. So we learned gold, it came from the image of the precious metal was hidden under the ground as a way of storage of wealth in ancient times. So it became the act of hiding it became the word that says, okay, this is gold. It's that precious that you have to hide it. The second word, well, let me do the whole word first. 金玉良缘. Wow, this phrase also has a lot of like culturally rich elements in it because gold in Chinese culture, I guess in American culture too, symbolizes wealth because it was the most precious metal back then, right? And 玉, this word is the precious stone, but it's not like a diamond, not shiny or at all. It's jade. It also comes from the image of jade that, you know, these are kind of like symbols of the discs of jade that's string together on a string. Right? Jade was often used in like decoration or adornment of on your clothing or as a piece of jewelry. So jade, Chinese culture is highly, how to say, favor this precious stone over, you know, the gems, the usual gems that's so commercialized in the Western world, the diamonds and, you know, sapphires, rubies, like those are not as actually held on as precious as jade in Chinese culture, because jade, I don't know, like if Western audience ever see in person how a jade looks or touch the jade, but it got a very smooth surface and it's kind of a cooling effect on your skin. And also the color, it's not see-through, it's opaque. And the light going through the jade is going to most likely absorbed within the jade. It doesn't shine, it doesn't have the sparkle at all. It's like taking in, the lights taking in, and you got only very subtle, you know, lights out, and that shows the texture, the shade, the color of the jade. So it's kind of that kind of subtlety that appeals to Chinese aesthetics. And as a result, jade, I mean, it's kind of precious too. Like there are different great levels of jade, a whole trade business about jade, and it's commonly used in culture as part of personal adornment and also a signifier of your social status. But it's more subtle, it's not shiny. So that's the difference. Liang, it came from the phrase, I mean, often used together with 善良, means kindness. Like you have this good heart. That's the word. It didn't come really from, you know, structure. As you see, it's hard to tell like what image or story it captured. So here I can only give you the surface meaning, literal meaning. It means good. It means, you know, positive, like a kind, a good natured, something like that. Yuan, this word is a combination of the meaning with this kind of a tangled threads shape over there. And in fact, that is a signifier, the meaning of anything related to textile. So it's something related to fabric. And on the right side is pronunciation. So by itself, it's a tuan, but when combined with this, it becomes a yuan. I mean, tuan by itself is seldom used in Chinese culture, like in our verbal language. I have to check it up to see like how it's pronounced and what exactly that means. But yuan is the word that we use a lot in the context of if you have a connection with something, or like in terms of matchmaking, if you and that person are meant to be, that kind of meaning. So 金玉良缘 came from this classical Chinese literature. I mean, 金玉良缘 altogether, it means it's a perfect match. It's the gold matched with jade, and it is really, meant to be that kind. And it came from this story that in this show released in 1987, a group of artists, TV, it's a TV show. It's one of the major influential TV shows back in the 1980s in China that rendered the story and visualize it for all of Chinese to that dreamy world of the dream of the red chamber. In Chinese, we call it 红楼梦. Hong is actually the word red, and Lo is this chamber, and Meng is dream. So not going into the details of the word, the character of that, but there's a whole school of study called Hongxue. So use the initials of 红楼梦. So we're starting with the red, right? So the red study, literal translation, right? So the whole academic fields, like I don't know how many scholars like dedicate their lives to study the details, the meanings, the hidden layers of stories from this masterpiece. And this is often regarded as the highest achievement in Chinese literature. It's a novel written about 250 years ago by kind of like an aristocrat background guy whose family went through this, power, prosperity through a downfall. So this person lived in his lifetime the richest life to a very subdued life. And I guess that's kind of semi-autobiographical, that, as people say, that it's all due to the interpretations of later scholars. But the book, why it's connected to gold and jade, because the original title of the book is called The Story of the Stone. Doesn't sound as glamorous as Dream of the Red Chamber, right? Red chamber and jade, that instantly give you this scenery, this background, this setting, like, oh, you really want to know what's going on in there. But the story of the stone is so, it sounds almost abstinent. I don't use that word often either, but I try to capture like this means like lower of desire. It comes to the essence of things. It's stripped off all the the glories, the appearances. It's come down to the essence, because jade is the glamour version. I mean, even if it's a subdued in comparison to diamond, the jade is already pretty soft, soft appearing gemstone, but it's a gemstone. The essence of jade is a stone. So the story of the stone is about this boy. So his symbol is this jade or the stone, like depending on how you look at him. And then the gold is this girl. And basically the story is about this big rich family that's 4 generations living together. and have 4 different surnames, like 4 families. They have this intermarriage, and their fortunes are tied together, and they went through this, luxury life. And the readers, like the first half of the story is like you're living through that luxury life of many levels of how to say, the character. There are so many characters in it, and their life stories, like what happened in between. So this is about the rich, powerful families trying to pass on all that fortune to this heir. And this is the first son of the first son of first son, something special status as the number 1 inheritant of all that fortune. So who he is going to marry is a big thing for that family. So I guess this is kind of comparison to the Bachelor, but instead like this is in that story background, this is the Bachelor of that universe in this story. So this is a centerpiece. Like there are so many girls around him, like this red chambers full of the relatives, like however distance the relatives, all the girls, like the family is trying to match him with this girl that also came from a rich family, and they are a good match. So this is the phrase describing how well matched they are, like of their family backgrounds, of their age, and all the other attributes that say, okay, they are a perfect match. But the boy doesn't think so. The boy's heart is on this girl. So this you can see from the costumes they're wearing, the rich are in red, like a powerful, prominent color, right? And this girl is in almost like a baby blue. And she just, in the storyline, she just lost her dad like not long ago, and that's why she sought shelter. Like she doesn't have much inheritance, and she has to kind of like a taken in of the foster family, which is a distant relative for her bloodline background, and then she has to seek shelter with them. So basically she doesn't come with money, and definitely not regarded as a good match to this point. But these two has some connection, and that connection was told at the beginning of the story when it was titled as the story of the stone, because in that story they have a previous life that this boy was actually a stone and this girl was a plant next to the stone, right? So they know each other in their previous lives. And this girl survived as a plant next to the stone because the stone captured the morning dews and have water dripping down to that plant so that the plant flourish and grow. So that's their previous life. Like she benefited from the dews from him. So they have this co-inhabitant, life next to each other, not as human beings, but as objects in nature. And in this life, like the first time they met each other, they feel like they already know each other. They are soulmates. Of course, they have this previous story. And then the girl, because she came in this life in the form of like misfortune, probably orphaned, and in this powerful rich family context, like she has really no footing or grounding to be even within the rich to be considered a match to the boy. But the two connected in their previous life, and because of in reality in that story that she couldn't. And the boy too, like a struggle, like the boy is the heir to all that fortune, and he was like, of course, well educated, well trained, well disciplined, well prepped to that moment to inherit all that fortune, carry the family bloodline down. So who he is going to be married it's totally like arranged. It's really not up to him. It's the whole family business. So this is the background, the drama in there. And then the girl, because it's like out of rich, right? So she, and also because of what happened to her in her early life, and she cried a lot. And there are sceneries of describing her sorrow, her melancholy, and that even more kind of drawn him to her to protect her. And the explanation of why she cried so much is she tried to use her tears to return the favor that he, with his dues in the previous life, to her. So she came in this life to return the, with her tears to him. So that's the story. I mean, there's no way that I can do justice to this masterpiece in Chinese literature. And it's a thick novel. And if you have time and interest, go back to that. It's really, really good, because the details, I mean, the devil is in the details, right? So the depiction, the language use, I guess, like even for native speakers, when we see Chinese language was used that way, like a lot of times, like it's a kind of out of my range, out of my reach too. I have to check out like what was the exact meaning back then. But overall, like you can feel the texture, the sense passed from the Chinese language. It's so rich. Like things like this, like in English, it's letters, right? It doesn't really give you that visual image. But when you have a book full of pictures, like characters that telling you a story, a forbidden love story, it really draws you in. And at least read the English version. So that's for today. Thank you for your time. I hope you learned something about the Chinese classical culture, the importance, the significance of gold and jade in our, culture. Thank you for your time. See you next time.